I'm going to talk to you today about your relationship rights. And what I'm going to give you is a list of affirmations that you can use to build up your confidence in asserting your relationship rights. So, a right is something that you are entitled to, and only you can waive by choosing to not exercise it. Only you are the one that should be able to say, I'm willing to not exercise that right under this circumstance. But in difficult relationships, people frequently trample all over your rights, not caring, one, that you have them, or two, that you have not chosen or agreed to waive that right. So, one of the things that often prevents you from asserting your rights in a relationship is believing that you don't have them. And there's a misunderstanding as a Christian that you don't have any rights in relationships. The Bible is very clear in numerous instances in Paul's life that he asserted his rights, and Jesus also. But then there are times when they chose to lay them down. We too, as Christians, can choose to assert our rights and ask for our rights to be respected in a relationship, whether it's with a spouse, a friend, a parent, an employer, a citizen of the country that you live in. We have those options. Now, some of you may live in countries where you don't have rights, and you know that it's wrong, that God has given us, as the United States Declaration of Independence says, we have rights that are divinely provided, that these are rights that cannot be taken away from us, that God has given them to each of us, and government and man do not have the right to take them away. So in our relationships, these rights also exist. So here are the affirmations that you can practice saying until you believe them. 1, I have a right to my opinions. Yes, you have a right to your opinions. No one has to agree with you, and you don't have to agree with anyone else in order for your opinions to be valid for you. It's an opinion. It's what you believe about something. People can have different opinions. The next one is, I have a right to my perceptions. You do. You have a right to your perceptions. That means how you perceive something, how it was for you, what you saw when you saw something, when you saw an argument, when you saw an accident, when you saw a movie, when you saw a conflict between two people, when you saw somebody doing something to you that bothered you. Your perception is yours. It's what you experienced. Now, we know that other people have different perceptions. You can have two people be in the same room and watch the same thing, and because they're different people, they might perceive it differently. You can have people that watch an accident or something happen, and they have different perceptions, different stories. Our mind sometimes picks up things differently. Maybe we saw different parts of it, or we saw it from a different angle. You can have different perceptions when you're in an argument with somebody. You perceive that someone said something to you, and that person is adamant, I did not say that. Okay, but you've got to listen to that person's perception, and they've got to listen to yours. You have a right to your beliefs. Your beliefs are yours. You have a right to choose them. No one can tell you what you have to believe. God has given us the choice to even reject him. He's given us the opportunity to say yes and no to the things that we believe. Doesn't mean that everyone's beliefs are right. God has presented us with the way of salvation. We know that. But at the same time, we have to respect that people do have a right to believe what they believe. Next one, I have a right to my feelings. Yes, each of us have different feelings. Feelings come up within our soul, in our body. They're what we feel as a result of things that happen. Feeling is triggered by events It's triggered by certain thoughts, but your feelings are yours. For someone to say to you, oh, you're wrong to feel that way, or that's not right, or even worse, you don't feel that way. Yes, I am entitled to my feelings. I feel what I feel. Now, does that mean I get to express them and do anything I want to people? No, absolutely not. Emotional intelligence is identifying your feelings and feeling them and then choosing how to wisely act on those feelings. But I have a right to my feelings. They're mine. The next one is I have a right to my choices. That is a God-given right. As I said, God has allowed us to choose freely. Now, we suffer the consequences, absolutely, but I do have a right to choose. We have to give other people those rights, and they have to give those rights in return. So remember that what you choose is your choice. You have to own that. I have a right to my needs. No one else can say, you don't need that. Okay. You shouldn't want that. You shouldn't need that. No, you don't have to need it, but I do need it. What I need in a relationship to make me comfortable and to make me feel loved is different from what someone else needs in a relationship that makes them feel loved. I can't tell the person your need is wrong. I can just validate, okay, that's your need. Doesn't mean I have to meet that need. Doesn't mean the person has to meet my needs. But my needs are my needs. Those are mine. I've got to figure out what to do about them if I can't get them met in a relationship. I might have to go without a need being met, or I might have to meet it in another healthy way. But my needs are my needs. I have a right to my process. And what I mean by that is I have a right to however long it takes me to work through hurts and to work through pain and to work through trauma and to work through a decision and to work through something that bothered me. I have a right to my process. No one else can say, you're taking too long, or you can't do it that way. You've got to do it my way. You've got to use my steps. You've got to do it the way I do it. No, I'm different than you. I need to process things according to my bent, according to the way God made me. It's going to be different than you, and that's okay. But I have a right to my process. I have a right to control my time. I am a steward over my time. I am a steward over what God gave me, the time on earth, my resources. I have the right to decide what am I going to do with my time. Now, I'm in relationship with people. I might have obligations at my job, so I need to go to my job. I need to fulfill those obligations. I have obligations in my relationship, so I've got to figure out how to do my part. But my time is my time. I have a right to control my money. In a relationship, if like in a marriage, people decide either to put their money together or to keep their money separate. That's a decision that you have to make. I have opinions about that and what's good and not good at different stages of your relationship. But I have a right, when I own a certain percentage of the money in a community property state, married, whether you make the money or not, 50% of the money and assets earned in that marriage are yours. And therefore you have a right to have input and to help make decisions for where that money goes and where that is spent. And I know a lot of marriages don't have that. The men only will control the money. And I've seen a lot of women end up in their 50s and 60s and have no money and have no control because they haven't known what's gone on with money. And then they end up getting a divorce and there isn't anything there, or the money is hidden. You have a right to have a say and have access to that money and to know where it is. I have a right to control my life. If you are in a relationship where a person is telling you, you can't go today to see your friend, you can't see your family, you can only see your family if I'm with you, you have to call me when you get to work, you have to only talk to women at work, for instance, you're not allowed to talk to men, or you're not allowed to talk to women. If you have somebody who's trying to control your life, that is not healthy. That is often abusive. That is somebody who is taking away the right that you have to make choices about how you as an adult, an independent person live. Now, do we make concessions when we're in a relationship? Absolutely. We're faithful. We are making sure that we're not doing anything that purposefully hurts the other person. Of course we do, but it's because you choose how to do that, not because someone else is telling you what you can or cannot do as an adult, even in a relationship such as a marriage. I have a right to control my privacy. In a relationship, you are typically open and not doing things that cause your partner to be suspicious. I have a video about that, just specifically going into the different options that you have of being what is okay to keep private, under what circumstances you would need to have more privacy or maybe less privacy based on what has happened in the relationship. But you have a right to your privacy. There's nobody who has a right to go through everything, like read every one of your emails or read all of your phone messages, unless there has been unfaithfulness in the relationship. And in order to establish trust, that person needs to see that you are not being unfaithful. I have a right to control my space. If I need time away, if I need time to be quiet in my heart, in my soul, in my mind, if I need time apart, if I need time to rest, if I need time, I don't want somebody constantly with me, or I don't want family at my house all the time, or I want somebody to call and give me a notice before they stop by. I have a right to that. I have a right to control my space. I have a right to say to someone, you're standing too close to me, or I don't care to be by someone right now. That's okay. It's your space. I have a right to control my body. Now, that might be a little controversial because we know when you're married, in scripture tells you that you don't own your body, that your spouse owns your body, and that in order for sexual union that you have access to each other's body. Okay, but we have to recognize that that can also be abused, and that in a healthy relationship, somebody doesn't have right to touch you and to have sex with you when you have not agreed to it. That is not, it has to be with both ways. Yes, you're not going to withhold sex continually because that's not healthy for the relationship, but at the same time, the other person is not going to demand it and expect you to be available anytime or be willing to do things that are not comfortable for you, that you are not comfortable with. A loving relationship, a loving person would not ask you to do something that you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. And so it has to balance. But ultimately, you have a right to say no if you don't want to do something with your body. I have a right to peace. Now, that one might seem a little weird too, because you say, well, the Bible says there's going to be conflict and there's going to be tribulation. Yes, there is, but I'm talking about your relationship rights. I'm talking about the fact that you have a right to peace in your relationship. You have the right to live in a way where you do not have somebody screaming at you, yelling at you, abusing you, causing you to live in trauma, causing you to live in a very uncomfortable, tumultuous relationship. You have a right to peace. There's even a scripture in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 7, where it talks about if you can't live in peace, go be separated, because you have a right to live in peace. You have a right to ask that there be peace in your relationship, that someone not continue arguing with you, not fight with you, not come into your space and continue an argument when you have asked for time apart and time to rest and time to think. I have a right to support. And what I mean by that is emotional support, caring, concern, somebody's ability and desire to care for you in the relationship and to give you support that lets you know you are loved, you are cared for, you are supported. Not somebody who says, who's the opposite, who doesn't support you, who goes against you, who does not let you know that you're loved, but lets you know that you're disliked and you're unloved and you're unsupported, and they don't care about what your needs are and what your thoughts are and what your hurts are and what your emotions are. I have a right to happiness. That also might be a little controversial. Am I going to be happy? Am I guaranteed happiness? No, not guaranteed anything in this world. We will have tribulation as Christians. We will have problems, and maybe even not as Christians. Everyone has problems in their lives. But in my relationships, I have a right to pursue happiness. I have a right to look for peaceful relationships that make me happy, not relationships that drain me and hurt me and cause me problems. It's okay to want good, healthy relationships. And it's okay for me to pursue the things that make me happy, the career that makes me happy, passions that make me happy, things that I want to do in my time that make me happy, as long as they are not sinful, hurting the relationship, causing pain to the other person. I have a right to information. I can ask, please tell me what's going on with this particular investment we have, or what's going on with our bank account, or what's going on with our stocks. I have a right to ask, where did you go after work? You didn't come home for 3 hours. Where are you this weekend? When you're in a relationship, people don't just leave and then not tell you where they are and then come home and not let you know where they've been or what they've done. Now, it depends on the relationship. If it's a friendship, do I have a right to ask my friend everything she's done? No, I'm not going to do that. It depends. If it's my child living in my house, I might say, hey, where have you been this weekend? I expect that child to tell me where that child has been, even if if the person's an adult, because that's being courteous and that's part of a relationship. So it depends on the level of the relationship. I'm not going to demand that my parents show me everything about their money and their statements unless I need to know that because they're getting old and they can't take care of them, or I need to know that something that has to do with a trust or a will. But so it depends on the relationship. I have a right to ask for what I need. In a relationship, both people have the right to ask for what they need. They do not have a guarantee that the other person will satisfy that need, because the other person has a right to say, no, I can't, or I won't, or that's not okay with me. Let's talk about that. But you have a right to ask for what you need in a relationship. In fact, it can be healthy to ask for what you need so that the other person does not have to guess and the other person knows. And that person can then, if possible, attempt to meet your needs. The relationship will be happier. I've had people in a relationship, marriage for decades, and one person has been very passive and not said anything. And then all of a sudden, decades later, is absolutely full of resentments and ready to leave the relationship because their needs weren't met. We have to ask that your needs be met. And then if they're not, you figure out how to either let that need go or get it met in another way that is not damaging to the relationship. I have a right to take care of my body. Now, this is really important because in our relationships, sometimes as Christians, we think, oh, we have to always put other people first and we can't take care of ourselves. It's selfish to take care of ourselves. I have videos on that too. It is not true. It is not true that you cannot take care of your body. In fact, it is essential that you take care of your body. It is scriptural. Paul talked about in Ephesians 5:26-29, talking to men. He's saying, hey, men, just love your wives like you take care of your own body, because no one neglects their own body. Okay? Yes, you take care of your body. So I have a right to do that, not just my body, but my soul, what I need. I have a right to go to the doctor. I have a right to do what I need to do to attend to my health needs, to attend to my physical health needs, my physical exercise. So in a relationship, it's okay to take care of you. You don't have to ask permission to go to the doctor. You don't have to ask permission to eat the food that you want to eat, your diet. You don't have to ask permission to take a walk. You can do what you need to do and should to take care of yourself. So you may be having some questions in some of this. If so, listen to it again. You're welcome to write me and listen to my other videos, because I've got a lot of videos that touch on a lot of these things. But these are your relationship rights, and you need to believe that you have a right to assert them in your relationships, or you will not. You will let people trample all over your needs. So why don't you go back, listen to it. I'm going to have this on my website. You can type this in, relationship rights affirmations, and you'll be able to print out a PDF of these if you want to print them out and have them somewhere you can read them or tuck them away in something. And that way you can read them and remember them. And you might want to print it out and circle the ones that you don't believe you have a right to assert, the ones that you want to work on, and practice asserting those rights in your relationship, maybe one at a time. So I'd just like to thank you for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that it stirred up a lot of kind of thinking and pondering in your heart and mind, to where maybe you can work on having healthier relationships. Thank you for watching this video on Change My Relationship.